Want to know a secret? Promise not to tell. We are standing by a wild documentary. Hey ghosts, it's Mark Commode here, and I am slightly suffering from an allergy and I sound terrible. But today I'm exploring a documentary called The Secret. This documentary came to my attention when I started looking into New Age stuff, and I watched it and my media analysis brain was like, this is cringe. But I decided to revisit it today because we like cringe now. I think if you watched this documentary, you would probably never take a New Age practice seriously ever again, if you ever did. But in 2006, when this documentary came out, it was advocated by the likes of Oprah and Ellen. It is sincere information, it's just executed in the cheapest, naughtiest, from the naughties, straight to TV kind of way. But culture is a pendulum, and we are swinging straight back into the 2000s. So let's explore The Secret and how the advocates of The Secret decided to tell the world about it. The doc opens with intensity. An Australian woman is telling us that a year ago her husband left her and her father died, and she was in a bad place. So she tells us that in her greatest despair came the greatest gift. And this is where we see her holding a book with a post-it note that says, "Mama, this will help. OXOX. And I think that this is to establish that OXOX is from Secret Girl, arch rival and nemesis of Gossip Girl. This is it. This is how we're introduced to The Secret. We don't learn how her kid came across The Secret, presumably because, the note says Mama. Maybe there's a reveal later that she doesn't even have kids. Maybe this is The Secret speaking to her and addressing her as Mama. Anyway, we go straight into full Naughties TV indulgence. So then we cycle very quickly through some talking heads who have job descriptions like visionary and metaphysician, which I thought was a self-aware doctor, but it turns out it's a type of philosopher. But different, of course, to the vocation of philosopher. The background art on these interviews is wild and distracting. There are random graphics that don't match anything else on screen. There's chicken soup for the soul, and here we've got a drawing of a person curled up in a fetal position under a sheet of paper with the words "Sheet Kid" written above them. Is this another character in the Secret cinematic universe? So we rush through the history of The Secret being suppressed, and then we rush through the roster of people who are going to be part of this documentary, and then we are launched into space and reminded that man has gone to the moon, and then we immediately drop all that and start going into the law of attraction. It's been 4.5 minutes at this point. The law of attraction is this idea that like attracts like. You become and attract what you think about the most. So the action here is that you should think about what you want. And if you think about stuff you don't want, you might attract that. So don't think about anything that you don't want. I don't think this is bad advice. I think you should accept the things that you can't change and focus on the things that you can. But this is their example of a bad situation that attracts more bad situations.
And so if you're complaining about how bad it is, what you're creating is more of how bad it is.
Oh, look! I can't eat that!
I don't understand what happened here. Look, I can't do that. I mean, if I don't comprehend it, then I can't attract it, right?
I had a student named Robert. Robert was a gay man, and he was taking an online course I have.
Took a while to get through that thought there, Therapy Bill.
And
Robert gets bullied for being gay, which is a very real issue that people face. And Therapy Bill tells him that if he just stops thinking about being bullied for being gay, then it'll stop. So, homophobia is your own fault, Robert. Wait till you hear Robert's stand-up routine.
I am a very, very gay man.
when he went and did his stand-up comedy routines, he started getting standing ovations and nobody was heckling him.
That's it. That's the whole routine. I don't know why I bother making an entire video to entertain people when this is all I have to do.
I am a very, very gay man.
And I'm not talking to you from the point of view of just wishful thinking or imaginary craziness.
For the record, I am speaking to you from the position of imaginary craziness.
I don't know how it works, but I do know this, that you can cook a man's dinner with electricity, and you can also cook the man.
What are you suggesting here, Bob? Do Americans have death rows built into their kitchens?
Your emotions, your emotional guidance system is what helps you to understand what you're thinking.
We've got to the creative process. Step 1 is to ask, so you write down what it is that you want. Step 2 is to answer, however, it's the universe that does this step for you. We actually become involved again in step 3, which is receiving. It feels like there's actually only 2 steps, but they just had to do 3 because that's like a round number. But essentially, receiving is being in alignment with what you've asked for. So you have to be in the feeling of having the thing that you want. There's some really good advice in this doc. I honestly do think that the sentiment is great. Start a gratitude journal, focus on positive experiences, manifest an elephant, clean up its make a mood board and freak out your kids.
Why are you crying?
Honey, I finally understand how the law of attraction works. I finally understand the power of visualization. I finally understand everything that I've read, everything that I've worked with my whole life, the way I've built companies.
It turns out that this guy actually wrote a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he sold it for 25 cents. The idea being that if he sold 400,000 copies, then he would make $100,000.
I had a book I had written, and I said if I could sell 400,000 copies of my book at a quarter each, that'd be $100,000.
And that's not a terrible idea, but it's currently selling for £10.41 on Amazon, so I'm not sure that this is proof of the pudding or the chicken soup. The rest of the doc is largely people telling you anecdotes of how the secret worked out for them. This woman, who doesn't get a strapline telling us what she contributes to society, appears at the 1 hour mark to tell us that she had breast cancer, and yes, that is a mammogram in the background with the comedy and tragedy masks and the word laughter. Was this directed by Tommy Wiseau?
Everything goes wrong at once. Nobody wants to help me, and I'm dying.
You're not dying, Mom.
I got the results of the test back. I definitely have breast cancer.
It turns out that she rejected chemotherapy and radiotherapy and just watched Charlie Chaplin and healed through laughter. It all makes perfect sense.
I am a very, very gay man.
This is where I find this stuff a bit dangerous. The idea that people should reject medicine and just think themselves healthy is a bit risky to me. I think that you can do whatever you want with your body, but please make an informed choice. Do some research that is not just this documentary. They dive into a story about a man called Morris who was in a plane crash. And he was hospitalised, and they reenact this idea that he really put his mind into the healing process, and that's great. I think some determination will fuel the journey. When the doctor brings in the 1 yes, 2 no card, you say, "Doc, put that above my bed, please. I'm trying to concentrate on the secret." And they show him taking his first steps after the recovery period, and that's lovely. He's making 1 step every 10 seconds, and the staff at the hospital are like, "Job well done, everyone. Now let's let this man walk home." And what is Morris's identity, you might be wondering? Miracle Man. New character unlocked. This is an interesting choice when it comes to listing things.
In this world, there is a war against poverty and a war against cancer and a war against teenage pregnancy and a war against terrorism and a war against violence and a war against terrorism. Did we mention that there's a war against terrorism and all of this pushing against?
I don't think she said this 3 times. I think they used the same soundbite of her saying the war on terrorism 3 times.
A war against terrorism, war against terrorism. Did we mention that there's a war against terrorism?
And the montages keep coming. Here's a very delicately handled montage about everyone's trauma.
My parents were alcoholics, my dad abused me, my mother divorced him when I was 6.
From the age of 13 to 18, I was involved in street gangs.
I had a severe motorcycle accident.
I was homeless at one point in Dallas. I lived in poverty for 15 years in Houston.
When I was a child, I had learning difficulties.
We don't return to the Australian woman from the start. Mama was completely irrelevant, but I'm so glad that we revisited Fred Alan Wolfe again before the end of this doc. His energy is the secret.
Some of you may be thinking, well, that's very nice, but I can't do that, or she won't let me do that, or he'll never let me do that, or I haven't got enough money to do that, or I'm not strong enough to do that, or I'm not rich enough to do that, I'm not.
Anyway, I'm going to take the advice of the documentary and manifest success. My YouTube channel has been a great journey so far, and I'd like for it to get even better. Not gonna lie, I haven't posted in a while because I've been working on a video idea that's taking a really long time, and I didn't have anything else to post in the meantime. But I guess I attracted the secret into my life. So, let's attract a silver play button, lads. I'm putting it out there. I'm imagining myself opening the box. I'm feeling smug as hell. Imaginary craziness. If you have any advice on the law of attraction, then I call for it to be attracted to my comments section. See you next time.